And that is really actually, to be honest, it's a very pious person who can actually extract the deen of Islam from Mark's favor. An average person isn't going to be able to do that, right? It's more likely that a person would do that from our own ulum or our own ulama, or a person might be able to do that if they're enabled. It's more difficult, but if a person can directly study the Qur'an and Sunnah. So we can't set that up for us, right? That is not the way for us to reconcile questions that we have in the deen of Islam. It might be a way for us to answer certain questions that people from the secular side raise, and that we have to know that we're answering them on their terms. Or the real answer to that is really to fully and wholeheartedly submit to the Islamic paradigm, right? Which far transcends these petty concerns that certain people in the secular modernist side put forward. And we really have to think. It's very sad when it's wonderful that we're able to see the wonderful intricacies in Plato's thought, or in Marx's thought, or in Durkheim's thought, or in Tocqueville's thought, and it's wonderful when we can see the intricacies of even living thinkers. That's fine, and nobody's trying to dispute that or discredit that in any way. But I would just, and it's also amazing and wonderful to reflect upon the haqa'iq or the ma'arif in science, to look at the atom, to look at the subatomic particle, to look at the human body, human physiology, human anatomy, to look at the galaxy, to look at things at a macro level, to look at matter, dark matter, quantum physics. All of these things are fascinating. But what I would just suggest to you is that think about it this way. That imagine that these scientists put so much effort into studying the universe or the human body or the atom. And truly then after all of that labor, effort, study, learning, reflection, they actually discover pearls and really treasures and treasures. So imagine then what would happen to that person who actually put that same amount of effort and learning and study into the Qur'an and Sunnah. What type of pearls and ma'ani and ma'arif and nukat would they discover in the Qur'an al-Kareem and the Sunnah of Nabi al-Kareem, right? They would far outweigh, they would be far more, infinitely more dazzling and brilliant than the type of nukat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in His physical creation, right? Because again, we will understand this from our own terms. In the Islamic perspective, no matter how great, how wondrous Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the atom, no matter how wondrous and amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the human being, no matter how amazing of a creation is the entire universe and all its galaxies, the most amazing thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created is the deen of Islam, is His kalam, the Qur'an, and is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the most amazing thing. So if you want to reflect into the mysteries of creation, well, the most incredible thing to look at, I mean, the Qur'an is uncreated, it's a sifat of Allah, but otherwise in the deen or the sunnah or whatever, if you want to reflect upon something, then you should reflect into that. And that's really what happened. If you think of a Nobel Prize winner in physics has come up with some wonderful intricacies in science, believe me, Imam al-Ghazali and these other ulama came up with some gems and marvelous intricacies into the meanings and the ma'arif of our deen and the Qur'an and Sunnah, right? And even one more level even beyond that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. And this is why in our tradition of the ulama, the ahl tasawwuf, the mashayikh who reflected deeply on the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through their ibadah they reach that level of yaqeen, and they actually, sometimes they would actually understand things about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what we call ma'rifat, right? Imam al-Ghazali has written a whole treatise on this, Risala fi Bayani Ma'rifatillah, that the treatise on the explanation of what it means to have intimate knowledge of Allah, something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself has alluded to in the Qur'an al-Kareem, Ar-Rahman fas'al bihi khabira, that if you want to know who Ar-Rahman is, what it means for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be Rahman, what His merciful nature is, fas'al, don't use your tafakkur, don't reflect, don't use your aql, fas'al, make su'al, ask that person. Should you ask that person who had aql? No. Ask that person who has ilm? No. Fas'al bihi khabira, ask that person who has khabar, who is informed, who knows the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a merciful person. So those people who spent so much time in ibadah, that's how they received yaqeen, because they would understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to whatever extent a human being can, right? Because all human understanding is limited. Even scientists, when they claim they understand the universe, that is limited to whatever extent a human being can understand these things. And we are obviously limited, and that limitation to understanding Allah is perpetual. That will continue even in the akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond the totality of our comprehension. But those people who do submit to His message, submit to the Qur'an al-Kareem, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases them in their ilm, increases them in their understanding of the deen, increases them in their yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what every individual Muslim has to do. In other words, we want to go back to that issue of what is fard ain. What is fard ain is that every Muslim should be trying in their life to reach a level of yaqeen in their iman, that they should have absolute certainty in everything, in not just in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in each and every word in the Qur'an, each and every of the ahkam of the Sharia, that is absolutely haqq, right? And partly that will be done through study of our texts, of the works of our ulama, but partly it's also going to be done through ibadah, through experience, through worship. فَاعْبُدُ اللَّهَ حَتَّى أَنْ تَأْتِيَ الْيَقِينَ وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. سبحان ربي الأعلى والحمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا